chapter 5. Today we are starting systems development life cycle. So in this chapter, systems development life cycle, we are going to cover these areas. What is a system? What is an information system? Manual information systems versus computer-based information systems, how they differ. Determine why a system is necessary. Steps in the development of an information system, and system development life cycle model. So under this chapter, we will be covering these 6 areas. So first, let's move to what is a system. Now before moving into understanding an information system, let's see what it means by the term system. System is a collection of integrated parts which acts as a whole towards a common goal. Now if there are a set of components and these components working together to achieve a common objective, we called that a system. So there should be set of components, not a single component, and these components are interrelated, working together to achieve the objective. So such situation we called a system. Right? So if you see this, here you have set of components. These components are interrelated, working together to achieve a common objective. And systems takes inputs from the external environment and releases outputs to the external environment. Now if one of these components fail to do its task, system will not be able to achieve its goals. So interrelated components, and all these components should work together as a whole. If one did not work or perform its task, system will not be able to achieve the objective of the system. So there are many systems within our body, out of our body, everywhere. If you see everywhere there are systems. For example, nervous system, communication systems, business also considered as a system. So each and every system has its own objective to be achieved and has its own interrelated set of components. Now why we call a business is also as a system, because in a business system there are various components such as marketing, sales, manufacturing, accounts likewise, and these components works together either to gain profits or to provide services, or for both. Now companies, businesses like NIBM, we work for both. We provide a service as well as earn profits. So there are many departments working together. If one department fails to perform its work, system will not be able to achieve its task. Right? So let me explain the term system with one very common system that is available with every one of us, which is the blood circulatory system. Now if you consider the blood circulatory system, in blood circulatory system there are mainly 3 components: heart, lungs and blood vessels. And all these three components works together for what? To circulate oxidized blood throughout the body. To circulate oxidized blood throughout the body. All these three components working together. So if you consider the part of the job of the heart, heart pumps the blood and provides the energy for the blood to travel all over the body. And the blood vessels provide a roadmap, the pathway for the blood to travel within your body. And your objective is to circulate oxidized blood throughout the body. So what the lungs does, lungs takes the carbon dioxide from your blood and releases that to the external environment and takes oxygen from the external environment and embed that to the blood so that it will enable to circulate oxidized blood throughout the body. So if one component of this system fails to perform its task, for example, if heart stops pumping the blood, blood does not have any energy to move through the blood vessels. If you cut off one blood vessels, from that point onwards, there is no road for the blood to move. If lungs stop getting oxygen from the external environment and releasing carbon dioxide to the external environment, again you won't be able to circulate oxidized blood throughout the body. So each of these three components should work together as a whole to achieve the system's objective. Hope you all have a clear understanding of what a system is. A system is set of interrelated components working together for a common objective. So if one component fails to perform its task, system will not be able to achieve its goal. Now here also there is a system we teach and you all should learn. And if we stop teaching, you may not be able to learn. If you are not listening, again, though we talk and talk, you may not be able to learn. Right? So the knowledge transferring, to make it happen, both the parties should work together. If one party does not do its job, objective will not be achieved. So with that, we can move to information system. So again, this is a system. So whenever you hear the word system, which means there should be set of interrelated components working for a common objective. So depending on the interrelated components and depending on the objective that it wants to achieve, the names of the systems changes. So what is an information system? In an information system, you get set of interrelated set of components to collect, store, process and communicate information. So if there are a set of components working together to collect, process, store and communicate information, such system we called an information system. So as the picture depicts, you have inputs, you have processors and you have inputs as well as you have a storage. So it accepts data, process them, keep them, store information, and provide outputs. So such system we called an information system. Okay, let's move to classification of information systems. Information systems mainly we can classify into two: informal information systems and formal information systems. Formal information systems, further you can break down into computer-based information systems and manual information systems. So when talking about information systems, mainly there are two categories: informal and formal. Formal you can further break down into two: computer-based and manual. Right. So let's discuss these information systems with an example. What is an informal information system? I'll describe this with an example. If you consider an organization, organizational gossip is a good example for informal information system. So somebody says something about someone, say to you or somebody else's. So they get the inputs, they process them with their experience, not the same way that they heard it. They process them within, keep it for themselves, which is storing, and whenever time comes, they tell that to somebody else. So that is informal information system. So there are a set of components, and these components works together. If someone says something to you, from that point, if you just forget it, if you don't process it, if you don't store it, and if you don't distribute it, it won't achieve the objective, right? So that's, from that point, the information flow breaks down. So set of components, and all these components should work together. So organizational gossip is a good example for informal information system. Formal information system, as we said earlier, you further break down into two: computer-based and manual information systems. Manual information systems, or whatever the formal information system, whether it is computer-based or manual, formal information systems has a formal procedure to be followed. In informal information system, there is no standard procedure for you to follow. So you can't say whenever you heard something about someone, this is how you have to process it, this is how you have to store it. There is no standard procedure. Based on the person's characteristic who listens this, the way of processing and way of storing and way of distribution changes. There is no any standard procedure for you to follow. But in formal information systems, whether it is computer based or manual, there is standard steps, standard procedure for you to follow. That's why we call them a formal information system. So if you are to create profit and loss account of an organization, whether it is computer based, whether it is manual, you should come up with the same solution, same P&L account. Standard procedure you have to follow. If you are recording student enrollments, whether it is computer based, whether it is manual, same information you have to keep. Only difference is, if it is a manual system, there are no involvement of computers. You do using manual files, pens and pencils and papers. computer based, for any of these activities you make the involvement of computers. So with that, what we are going to learn here about the computer based information systems and the life cycle of the development of these computer based information systems. So let's see what are the components of a computerized information system. So computerized information system basically consists of hardware, software, databases and people. There should be people to develop these information systems, to enter data to the information systems, and databases to store hardware and software. All these components should be there in a computerized information system, basically involved with the involvement. Okay, let's start with the second session of chapter 5, which is System Development Life Cycle, or SDLC. So when talking about SDLCs, it is consist of 7 phases, namely preliminary investigation or feasibility study, system analysis or system study, system design, software development, system testing, implementation and maintenance. Having said that, let's move to the first phase of SDLC, which is the preliminary investigation or feasibility study. The first phase, now we are going to discuss the first phase of SDLC, preliminary investigation or feasibility study. In feasibility study, you are going to analyze the company's ability to complete a project. These feasibility studies plays an important role in business development. It provides crucial information to the company management to preventing company from entering blindly into the risky or unrealistic projects. So blindly, if you have accept a project, if it is a risky project or if it is an unrealistic project, company have to face problems. So preliminary investigation or feasibility study plays a main role preventing companies from such situation. So in a preliminary investigation or in the feasibility study, you mainly consider 4 areas: technical feasibility, economical feasibility, operational feasibility and legal feasibility. In feasibility study, we mainly focus on these 4 areas, and at the end you will be provided to the management of the top management of the company with a feasibility report. So based on the feasibility report, the company management can decide whether to continue with this project or not to continue the project. So if mainly for large and mission critical projects, you must conduct a feasibility study or preliminary investigation. So when conducting a preliminary investigation, it should be done by very well experienced person, because if you made any mistake, if you have identified certain areas incorrectly, you may put the company into trouble. So the person who does the preliminary investigation should be a very experienced person. So at the end, as I said, you'll be providing a report to the company's management, which is called the feasibility report, so that they can decide whether to continue or not to continue with the given project. So let's move to these main 4 areas that you need to consider when doing or when conducting a feasibility study. The first one is technical feasibility. What do you mean by technical feasibility? In the technical feasibility, you mainly check, can the development of the proposed system be done with the current equipment, existing software technology and available personnel? Does it require new technology? So in the technical feasibility study, you mainly focus the development company's ability to carry out the project, whether they have enough resources. Now say for example, say you are given a project where it requires 100 employees, 100 developers with Java experience. So say within your company you have 100 developers, but only out of that 100, only 50 Java expertised and other 50 C# expertise. So simply assuming, okay, we have 100 employees, we can accept this project. Can you complete the project on time? Because the expected, for the given time period, the expected amount of developers is 100 Java expertise, but you have only 50 Java expertise. And the other thing is, say you have the enough number of employees working for you, but you don't have the equipments required for them. You say you can find the workers, but there is no enough equipments, no machines, no place to put them. So in such case also, though you can find the employees, the workers, again you are not capable of accepting this project, right? So with the technical feasibility study, what you check, you mainly check the development companies or development organizations' ability to carry out the project. So you check with the existing equipments, with the existing software technology and available personnel, will it feasible enough to do this given technology, given project. Second one is economical feasibility. So in the economical feasibility, you mainly check whether the cost is acceptable, whether you can gain enough benefits for the amounts that you are going to spend on this project. Now when talking about benefits, benefits are not only on monetary terms. You can gain other benefits that is cannot be calculated in monetary terms. So when considering the economical feasibility, you mainly check whether the cost is acceptable, whether you can gain enough benefits for the amounts that you are going to spend. So at the end of the economical feasibility study, you prepare a document which is called the cost benefit analysis. So in this document, in the cost benefit analysis, there are two main types of costs and two main types of benefits that you need to consider. Let's see what these are. So we'll first move to types of cost. When you are doing the economical feasibility study, you need to check what is the initial cost that you need to spend and what are the recurring costs that you have to spend throughout this project. So what do you mean by initial cost? Initial cost is the cost that you have to spend only once on this project also without spending this amount, you cannot start the project. Now if we consider our same old example, say you have, the requirement is to have 100 Java expertised people to do the project. For the moment, at the moment you have 50 people, other 50, since they have object oriented knowledge, other 50 within 2 weeks you are capable of training on Java. Right, so for this you have to spend the initial cost. If you don't spend this initial cost, you cannot start your project. Why? You don't have the enough number of personnels to start the project. So if you can spend this initial cost, you can train the remaining 50 on Java language and you can make them do the project. So once you spend this amount, do you need to train them on Java again and again unless there is another new technology? No. So initial cost is the cost that you have to spend once and only once. Also, without spending this amount, you cannot start your project. Now some examples for initial cost you can say: preparation of premises, purchase of hardware and other equipments, develop or purchase softwares, training of staff. Recurring costs are the costs that you have to spend throughout the development project. What are the examples from recurring cost? Maintenance of hardware and software, staff salaries, stationaries, electricity, those are goes under recurring cost. Amounts that you need to spend throughout your project. Now these costs you cannot just pay only once and wait. Every month, every instance you have to spend these amounts. So that is called recurring cost. So when you do your feasibility study, you have to do a cost benefit analysis. When you are doing your cost benefit analysis, you need to consider these two types of costs: initial cost and the recurring cost. Now let's move to benefits. There are again two types of benefits: intangible benefits and tangible benefits. Intangible benefits are the benefits that cannot be measured in monetary terms. Now say for example, you are getting a project from the Defense Ministry of Sri Lanka, but they are not going to pay you a lot, but doing this project gives you a lot of reputation, because for the country you have done, not just for the country but for the country and for the Defense Ministry. So very highly secured project you have to do in that case. So once you build that project, if other companies got to know that you have done such a big project, that helps to enhance your name within the customers. So intangible benefits are the benefits that cannot be measured monetary terms. You cannot measure these intangible benefits in monetary terms, but they might give you more advantages over the tangible benefits. So what are tangible benefits? Benefits that can be measured in monetary terms. Let's see some examples of intangible and tangible benefits. Intangible benefits, for example, improved employee morale, increase the customer satisfaction, better vendor relationships. Those are intangible benefits. You cannot measure them in monetary terms, but they will give you more advantages than the tangibles. Tangible benefits completing jobs in fewer hours, producing error-free reports, for example. Those are the benefits that can be measured in monetary terms. So now we have discussed about two areas that we have to consider in feasibility study: technical feasibility, economical feasibility. Now let's move to operational feasibility. Now in this study, you check, once you develop this product, whether this product is operatable at the client site, whether you get the support from the management as well as whether you can get the support from the users. So there's no point if you work so very hard and do a project, and if there is lot of resistance to use this product, no point of wasting your time and money on such product. So before you start, before you jump into the production, you need to check whether the product is operatable at the client site. Will the system be used if it is developed and implemented? Will there be resistance from users that will undermine the possible application benefits? So you check whether you can get the support from the management, whether you can get the support from the users. Also, you need to check whether this proposed system causes any harm. So again, if it is harmful product that you are going to develop, you should not do such products. So that is operational feasibility. And the last one is legal feasibility. Say you have enough resources, you are gaining lot of money, and also it is highly operatable at the client side, but if it is an illegal product, you should not accept such products. You should not develop those softwares, because today or tomorrow you might face with lot of problems. You have to do only legal products. So before you start doing your project, you need to check whether there are any legal hassle in developing the system. So when talking about feasibility study, there are mainly 4 areas that you need to consider. Technical feasibility, where you check the development organization's ability to do the project. Economical feasibility, where you check whether the cost is acceptable. Operational feasibility, where you check once you developed and implemented this, whether it is operatable at the client side. And finally, the legal feasibility, are there any legal hassles in developing this system? So once you're done with all these 4 areas, then you give a feasibility report to the company's management. So based on your feasibility study, they will decide whether to continue with this or not to continue with the given project.